If you sell anything online, this might be one of the most important videos you watch. Now, I know that sounds very hypey and I don't mean it like that, but I want to talk about expectations and sales conversion rates because I find most people have no fucking clue. It is absurd the expectations some people have. So I'm going to share a story. This lady reached out to me this weekend. Maybe I'll flash up the screenshot. She DM'd me over on Instagram. She had bought a very popular PDF course. And she, in her words, she got scammed by this creator. And he does hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. He's tried to tear me down in his ads, ironically. You know, saying I copy him or something like that. And I respect the guy. I enjoy his teachings. I'm not going to tear him down, but she said she got scammed by him. I've bought his course. I think his course is wonderful. Him and I do things a little bit differently. He teaches you how to create products using AI. I don't teach that. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but that's not how I teach it. I teach you sharing your own story about how you accomplished something or solved a problem for yourself, and you want to help others do it by sharing your story. So anyways, she said, hey, I got scammed. I've reached out to multiple other people, multiple other PDF gurus, and I didn't get a response from any of them. You're my last hope. Something along those lines. So she DM'd me this weekend, and she said, I'm not getting the sales. I've spent all this money on the sales page, the funnel, and all this stuff. And she said, I'm about to give up. I'm running ads. And so I asked her two questions. And it's the same questions I ask everybody when they come to me and they're complaining about low sales. Because I like to work with data and not emotion. And most people get so tied up in their emotions that they overlook the data. So I asked her, I said, how many people have visited your sales page in the last 30 days? And how many sales did you generate in the last 30 days? Those are the two numbers I asked everybody that reaches out to me. That gives me two concrete numbers. And I take those two numbers and I divide them, and it gives me a percentage. And that is the sales conversion rate of her sales page. That is what I care about. So she gave me the numbers. She had a hard time finding them. She uses Go High Level, and she says, oh, Go High Level doesn't have this stat. And I said, I assure you they do. I've used Go High Level. They do have it. So she found the number. She shared both numbers with me over the last 30 days. Now, before I reveal her percentage, I want you to know that the average conversion rate is about 2%. The average sales page conversion rate is about 2%. Now, there are a lot of factors: price, market, positioning, offer, time of year, market. There's a lot of factors, but the average is 2%. Meaning, if you get 100 people to your sales page, not your website, to your actual sales page for said specific product, if you get 100 people, you should get 2 sales. If you get more than 2 sales, you're doing something right. You're doing something good. My advice would be get more traffic. If it's below 2 sales out of 100, there's something wrong. There's something off. There's something broken. And now there could be there is a lot of different things it could be on that side. But that is the average conversion rate, is 2%. So I did the math. Now, she didn't have a ton of traffic. I forgot how many she had. What'd she have? She was at 7.4% conversion rate. I replied back to her in all capital letters. This is out fucking standing. That's what I told her. And it was fucking true. I was like, I would trade that in a heartbeat. She was about to give up on the offer because she wasn't making enough sales. Because she thought the conversion rate should have been 30, 40, 50%. I don't know where she got that number from. But most people I talk to, and she's not the first one I've talked to about this, and I know she's not the last person. I remember talking to a guy like 2 years ago, and he was at, I think, 11.2 or 11.6% conversion rate. Now, he didn't have a ton of traffic. That is outstanding. I go, dude, like, I dream of double-digit conversion rates. He had no idea. He was about to throw the towel in on his offer. Again, this was a couple of years ago. But this lady yesterday, I told her, I was like, dude, you don't have an offer problem. You don't have a conversion problem, which those are harder to fix. I said, you have a traffic problem. Get more traffic. Get more people to your sales page. Because as of right now, every 7 people out of 100 right now that visit your sales page are buying. And that is amazing. And she was selling a $27, it was gut health. She was in the gut health space selling like how to get rid of your gut health or something to do with gut health. And so I told her, I said, this is outstanding. Like, you have great numbers. Now, obviously they can be improved. There's other numbers to look at, but that's what I look at first is the conversion rate. And I just find so many people have these wildly ridiculous expectations. So my overall conversion rate, like for my products, I think I'm at about 1.9%, 1.8%. And when I tell people that, they're shocked because a lot of times they're better than I am. I have a lot more traffic. I have like 25,000 visitors, but they're like, I was like, dude, you're crushing it. Now, when I say 2,500 visitors, that means on all my pages. So I don't want you to think that that's on my sales page, but regardless, 2% is average. Obviously you want to improve upon that. But if you're around 2% or better, you're doing damn good. And again, you want to improve it. I'm not saying settle at 2%, but don't throw in the towel because you're at 2%. Like, that's outstanding. Like, another guy reached out to me this weekend, and he sells a $99 product. And he only had 113 visits to his page, so it wasn't enough traffic. I definitely recommend a minimum of 300. A minimum of 300, and you should have a minimum of 6 sales. If you don't have 6 sales after 300 visits, there's something wrong with your offer, or positioning, or messaging, or pricing, a lot of things, a traffic source. But if you have 6 or more sales after 300 visits, double down, triple down, more traffic, more traffic, more traffic. And that's what I recommend. Get 300 visits to your sales page as quickly as possible. As fast as it might take you a month, it might take you 3 months, it might take you a week, depending on like your audience size and all of that. But get 300. That gives you an idea. The more traffic, the better. You get a much better. Ideally, it's 1,000 is probably better, to be honest with you, to give you a more accurate reading and representation of how it's going. But if I said 1,000, most people would be like, oh my God, no way, But minimum 300, and then make a judgment from there. So this guy this weekend, he had 113. I think he had 113 visits, and he had 1 sale, and his product was $99. And he said, should I lower the price? Blah, blah, blah. I said, no, I hate just lowering that can help, but I don't like doing that right away. There's a lot of other things that you can do before lowering the price. So I looked at his sales page. He had 0 social proof. And I was like, dude, why don't you have any social proof? And he's like, oh, I don't have any. I was like, yes, you do. Like, add social proof. You're your own social proof. You're your own case study. You're client 0. Whatever your story is. However, his was about like building a personal brand, using Notion, creating like a content ecosystem, blah, blah, blah. I said, so you like share the growth that you've had over the last 1, 3, 6, 12 months, whatever it is, how much money you've made, how much growth you've had, how fast it took you, how long it takes you to create content. Like, all of that is a form of social proof that you can share on your sales page. Any nice comments that you get on social media, any nice comments you get in emails or DMs about your methodology, about your strategy, about your teachings, about your philosophies, about your perspectives, opinions, whatever it is. Screenshot, screenshot, screenshot. Add to the sales page, add to the sales page. That's only going to help. So I told him, I said, dude, add the social proof and bust your butt to get 187 more visits, in total 300 visits, and see how it does. And then make a judgment. Then there's some other things you can do. You might tweak the headline. That's another, that's actually a really important one. Tweaking the headline, adding social proof would probably be the first 2 things I would add to the sales page, or kind of split test, or kind of tweak if you're struggling with sales. But that's the message today, is have realistic expectations. 2% is average. And if you're at 1%, it's not horrible. But I find so many people that are like between 5 and 10%, and they're ready to throw the towel in. Like this lady this weekend, she was honestly ready to throw the towel in. And it turns out she's doing fantastic. And she had no idea, because she had some ridiculous numbers in her head. Now, I ran a promotion 2 weeks ago, and my conversion rate was 18%. But it was because I emailed my list. That was a warm audience. It was a 24-hour promotion. 18% was like amazing. And I made a video about that. So if you would watch that video, I don't want you to be like, well, Adam, last week you said you had 18% conversion. Because it was really warm traffic, and it was a 24-hour promotion. And it was a really, really good deal. A really, really good deal. So there was a lot of factors that played into that 18%. You know, I could go on social media and say, look how I close, you know, look how my sales page converts at 18%, but that'd be bullshit. You know, there's a lot of context missing. So anyways, if you're selling any type of like lower ticket products, even e-commerce, I think the average like physical product e-commerce, like Amazon, is 2.9%. Amazon might be different, they're an anomaly, but if you have like a Shopify store and you're selling physical products, like 2.9%, but like with digital products, it's right around 2%. You know, you might find some stats that show 2.2, you might find some stats that show 1.75, you know, but it's around 2%. So if you're getting 2 sales for every 100 visitors, know that that's average, and that's actually pretty damn good, because like I said, I'm at like 1.8, 1.9 with my stuff, you know, and I've been doing this a long time. And I'm happy with that. Obviously, I'm trying to improve that. I'm trying to make tweaks. I'm trying to add social proof. I'm trying to tweak the headline. I'm trying to make improvements to increase that. You know, but if you're at 2%, you're on the right path. You just need more traffic. So that's it. I'm trying to set realistic expectations. 2% should be celebrated, and go out and get more traffic, because it's fucking working. And then of course tweak and try to improve upon that 2%. But don't throw in the towel because you have 2%. That's outstanding. Heck, don't even throw the towel at 1%. That's something. You have something to work with. Continue testing, continue tweaking, continue making improvements. A little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. You'll get to 1.2, you'll get to 1.4, you'll get to 1.75, then you'll get to 1.9, then you'll get to 2.1. And that's the game. That's the game. A lot of people think that these gurus and that launch these sales pages or funnels, and it converts right out of the gate. I've never done that. I know Russell Brunson's very open about it, and he says he's never done it either. Or I think he said it's very, very rare that a funnel works out of the gate. You got to test a lot of shit, and a lot of people don't see that. They see the end result, you know. So if you're getting 2%, you're doing an awesome job. Just get more traffic. Anyways, I yap about selling PDFs. And I do these videos Monday through Friday, where I just talk about a topic, a subject, an opinion, a thought, a perspective, a philosophy, a win, a loss, a mistake made, or a lesson learned. So if you like these style videos, make sure you click subscribe down below. And as always, if you have comments, questions, concerns about selling PDFs, drop them down below. I'll do my absolute best to answer your question. And then I just did a video a couple of weeks ago. It's gotten good, some good comments, good engagement. It's my 5-step process on how I'm doing. I think it's, what is it, $540 a day selling silly little PDFs on the internet. So check out that video. In my opinion, although a tad biased, it's much better than Netflix and chill. Thank you.